All right, it's the Security Weekly News. It's episode 457. It is Friday the 7th of March as the year starts to slip away. Welcome to the show. We've got secret YouTube videos, Thunderforge, ByBit Revisited, 365, Chrome, VMware, Aaran Leyland, and more on this edition of the Security Weekly News.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for the Security Weekly News. Imagine a world where every threat, ransomware, supply chain attacks, zero-day exploits, is stopped before it can even begin. ThreatLocker makes that world a reality with a zero-trust approach to cybersecurity. By giving you granular control on every executable that can happen in your environment, ThreatLocker protects your business around the clock. No more guessing, no more gaps, just rock-solid protection that keeps your operations running smoothly and your data secure. Discover how ThreatLocker's least privilege approach can safeguard your organization against known and unknown threats. Take the first step toward total peace of mind. Visit securityweekly.com/threatlocker today. All right, from the island of Elba, it's the Security Weekly News. I'm Doug White. Hit that like and subscribe button and leave a comment, or I'm sending you all the cat hair I've scraped out from between my keyboard keys. I don't know how it gets there, but it does get there. I have dental tools. Yeah, it's gross. You don't want it. Or maybe you do, and you can knit a sweater or something. All right, starting this month, Microsoft, and another one of those, we are going to do what's best for you, even if it's not what you want, but you're going to do this, and if you don't, well, let me tell you, bang, zoom to the moon, Alice. Okay. Well, anyway, Microsoft is going to start prompting 365 users, so that's what they call Office now, so Microsoft 365. They're going to start prompting the users of that to back up their files to OneDrive. So they're just going to pop up a box. I've seen it already. It pops up. It says, are you backing up to OneDrive? And so it may not bother you, or it may bother you a lot. I don't know. The prompts will be displayed in Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, and it encourages users to enroll in the known folder program. So this known folder program thing that they use it's going to be an official preview that's going to run until early April. And I think it's starting like maybe next week. And the general rollout to the public will be in May. Now, if you've blocked OneDrive KFM, your users won't see these messages. So if you have it blocked already, but, why did I bring this up and foam about it? Well, you're probably now going to need to think about whether you want corporate files and folders getting backed up to OneDrive, because that could happen. So when it pops up and says, what do you want to back up? If a user just clicks, like, say, I don't know, their whole drive, then it may be backing up their whole drive to OneDrive. I'm not saying it's a bad idea to have users backing up files, but where are those files going? Who has access to them? And do you trust Microsoft to protect them at OneDrive? Not going to lie, I use OneDrive and I have never had any problems with it. In fact, the last time my laptop got hosed down with cat barf and it just sort of like smoked and died, and we just didn't even want to clean it. It was like, okay, that's it. I went and got another laptop, reinstalled the OS, had all my stuff back in about 2 hours. It was actually pretty nice. But when I work on proprietary stuff, I have to use a totally different laptop, as many of you do, that doesn't have any of that stuff installed on it, because I don't, I have contracts that say I can't put those files somewhere else. I don't know how that's going to work in those systems. I don't know if they're already blocking that or if you're already blocking that. But if you have proprietary stuff, you may want to think about that like soon. SquareX Labs came up with a horrifying and terrifying thing that they call a polymorphic attack, which would allow a malicious Chrome extension to transmogrify into another browser extension. I went, what? But basically I read it and it was like, basically you can get Cronenberg password managers, crypto wallets, bank apps, etc., that could then steal your goodies and look like things that you already have installed in Chrome. SquareX disclosed this to Google. They're a legit research company. They're not, this is not some kind of a malicious thing. They disclosed it to Google with guidance on what Google should do to stop it. But basically what they do is they submit a malicious polymorphic extension. I always wanted to say that. I was going to name my kid that. Malicious polymorphic white. That sounds bad. My last name can be a little problematic at sometimes. But malicious polymorphic extensions are published to the Chrome Web Store. Their example was like an AI marketing tool, which actually offers the promised functionality. So they just put something together. Victims go, ooh, cool, and install it. And then what it does is it targets the Chrome.management API, which it asks for permission to access when you install the original. So even if the user blocks this access, it can slip around by using a resource injection attack on any web page that the victim is using. It then tests to see if certain extensions that they want to manipulate are installed, and it sends all this info back to the command and control server. Now, if the command and control server person, and again, this was legitimate lab stuff, but if the command and control server person decides that one of the targets that they want is available, they can command their app or their extension to morph itself to look like the target extension. So it's invasion of the virtual body snatchers. Don Siegel's going to sue you guys so much. Don Siegel? Anyone? Bueller? Don Siegel directed the original invasion of the body snatchers back in like the 60s. Yeah. But anyway, after it does all this, it basically throws up a login for the app that it's mimicking, and it sends all the credentials back to the command and control server. So it just pops up. They didn't list the particular apps they're targeting with their research, but so just as an example, you're using LastPass as an extension. It sees that, they say, yeah, go for it. It pops up a thing that looks like a LastPass login for the master password, and boom, Bob's your uncle. So SquareX said that there's no real preventative at this time to stop this from happening, except you not installing extensions into Chrome. Or not using Chrome, but I'm sure they could do this with other browsers too. I just thought of The Invaders. Oh my God. The Invaders was a 1967 TV show. And it was about these invaders, and they looked like humans. And there was no way to determine that they weren't human, except there was something wrong with their pinky fingers. Like you could look at people's hands and then they go, oh, he's an invader. And when they like died, they like turned to this red halo around that was real cheesy. It's a classic. I wonder if you can stream that thing. It's like X-Files meets cheesy 50s monster movies. It's absolutely awesome. Yeah. Check it out. I don't know if you can see it anywhere, but I remember watching it when I was a kid in like reruns. It was fun. A hidden loader malware that primarily targets Linux and Mac OS systems in the financial sector has been reported with at least 7 typosquatted packages in the Go realm. Socket Research had a blog post this week that said that this is likely a coordinated threat actor that can pivot rapidly. And by that, I pretty much assume that means they are able to rename these libraries with other typosquatting names and move them around a lot, so they're hard to spot. Socket said, quote, given the threat actor's demonstrated ability to upload malicious packages, there's a strong reason to suspect that similar tactics, techniques, and procedures will continue to infiltrate the Go ecosystem. So basically, they create a package with a really similar name to a legit package, and they hope that a developer who's looking for that package doesn't notice the name. And usually these actually have the legit package associated with them as well. So, it actually works. You just don't know you just embedded malware or a backdoor or something in your app. So they can do this with alternate characters, which is how I ended up owning the domain Hot Horse with like slashes through the O's, because apparently somebody owned a domain called Hot Horse. I was using it as an example of a puny code typosquatting stuff. And remember, threats against Mac OS has surged by, they said 101% in some recent quarters in the /next email security document. So 1, don't tell yourself you're not a target. And 2, you're going to have to find a way to verify all these packages before you install them. So maybe put some kind of protocol in place where when people are trying to add packages, you look at them, you go back and investigate them again, and then maybe look at them a couple more times, and maybe have somebody sign off on it so that they looked at it too and went, why do the O's have slashes through them or umlauts or something? If you can even see that in your browser, that's the problem. The Cybersecurity Buyer Intelligence Report from Cyber Risk Alliance said that attacks on healthcare are becoming more numerous and more sophisticated. This report was based on intel from a panel of cybersec professionals and managers, and they found that attacks are becoming more sophisticated based on the panel, I guess. They said 46% of the respondents said that their organization had witnessed an attack attempt firsthand, as they were the target of a cyber attack within the last 12 months. 24% of them said that the attacks they saw were much more sophisticated than previous years, and 47% said they were somewhat more sophisticated, which adds up to 71% of the people who were attacked said it was at least somewhat more sophisticated than the past. Now, some of this, of course, is just malware and ransomware gangs have changed their own unwritten rules. Like and I don't know anything about the real mafia. I just know movie mafia stuff. The movie mafia people, the Godfather doesn't want them to sell drugs, and he doesn't want them to, they don't shoot kids and wives and family members and all this. Well, the ransomware gangs have often left alone. And then some of them even had like manifestos that said they would not attack healthcare and stuff like that. Yeah, they're getting over that now. They're pretty much going after healthcare hand over fist. A key motivator of this is, of course, the belief that healthcare enterprises are more likely to pay out ransom demand because of the sensitive nature of medical records. Because, basically it's a major liability if that picture of my discolored holy folds gets published, and they figure that, the customers of healthcare and the industry of healthcare is going to, really, really, really not want this to happen. So they're very much targeting you. So if you're in the healthcare field, you may want to, revisit some of these protocols and see, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? What's going to happen when it happens? In the big book of what could go wrong, the American military, we love you, but sometimes the military and the Pentagon have its problems. The American military has signed a deal with Scale AI, and they're going to, so Scale is going to provide AI agents that are going to be used in planning and operations. What could go wrong? Wasn't this the plot of War Games? The movie War Games? Oh, even better. I got a better one. A Taste of Armageddon. There's one. Now in that one, no fancy pants Jean-Luc Picard in that one. It was just a computer. It was just straight up James T. Kirk, right? In A Taste of Armageddon, there's a computer that simulates who lives and dies in these simulated war attacks on this planet. These two planets are fighting, and they thought, war is barbaric, so we'll just simulate it. And you go in this little suicide booth, a la Futurama. But, James T. Kirk, blast them. Yeah, but this project is called Thunderforge. Even better, right? Like Thunderforge, really? But anyway, it was called the U.S. Department of Defense's first foray into integrating AI agents in and across military workflows. Now, I know I'm probably being a bit hyperbolic about this, and it's probably something that manages, the supply of apples to, the mess tent or whatever. But the article said that Thunderforge AI will be used to support mission planning and campaign development. Okay, that sounds scary. Help allocate resources at the theater level. Okay, so that means the tanks and whatever get to where they're supposed to be, and make strategic assessments. Ooh, that's starting to sound scary. The AI agent bots will be able to carry out tabletop war game simulations to determine the outcomes for leaders, plan scenarios, and refine proposed courses of action. Now, considering that the Los Angeles Times just had to pull one of their bots offline on their website because it immediately began defending the Ku Klux Klan, you kind of wonder how this is going to turn out. Would you like to play a game? Or are unlicensed kill bots blasting unlicensed copies of AC/DC's Thunderstruck going to come boiling out of some bunkers with red eyes and a solution to the human vermin problem? What could go wrong? Whole thing sounds scary to me, but hey, I don't get paid the big bucks to make those decisions down at the Pentagon. Or did somebody the other day say it should be reduced to a 3-sided structure that would be called a trigon? And I'm like, you mean a triangle? Okay, whatever. A Broadcom security alert on Tuesday reported that 3 0-days against VMware are being exploited in the wild. The vulnerabilities affect pretty much everything. VMware ESXi, that's the bare metal hypervisor, Workstation, which is their localized virtual machine execution tool, and Fusion. I can't remember what Fusion does. I used to have it, but I don't remember what it does. They took away my academic Broadcom was like, no more academic licensing, pay full price or die. So we don't have it anymore. But patches have been released for each of these vulnerable products, and apparently there are no workarounds for these problems. One of them is a heap overflow vulnerability. Heap overflows. Wolf in the Fold. There's an old episode of Secure Digital Life I called Wolf in the Fold because we were talking about heap overflows. That's the original series right there. Speaking of James T. Kirk. Yeah, original series day. In that one, this wacky Jack the Ripper ghost demon / thing takes over the Enterprise's computer and replaces Majel Barrett's voice. And it's like being all crazy. And Spock, basically goes, "It's only logical, Captain." And it asks the computer to compute pi to the last digit, which, I guess they did, it's a heap overflow. It overloaded the computer, drives Jack the Ripper demon out of the computer, and Majel's back. "Hello, Captain. Good to see you." It was a kind of heap overflow. It was actually a heap overflow. Well, this one is an ESXi and workstation, and it can allow local admins to execute code as a virtual machine's VMX process running on the host. So that means somebody using one of your virtual machines who has admin on the virtual machine can then execute code. Yeah, it would be bad. The second one's an arbitrary file write issue in ESXi that would allow somebody to trigger an arbitrary kernel write, which would allow a sandbox escape. Something I swear for the longest time I thought nobody would ever be able to do this, but yeah, people are doing it. I should never, ever be like that. The other one affects all three platforms and is an information disclosure flaw from an out-of-bounds read bug, which is just like, I'm going to point to some place in memory and pull stuff down. And it's in the HGFS component, and it would basically allow an attacker who has admin on the VM to leak memory from the VMX process, which is the overall hypervisor process. So very, very dangerous stuff. So you need to patch this up. Yeah, because this means your users who you may have given local admin on their virtual machines can do bad things. Yeah. The ByBit hack. Yeah, well, that happened last month. We talked about it. Basically, hackers from North Korea stole $1.5 billion in crypto by using a simple exploit. So ByBit, so here they've explained it now. ByBit said that they relied on a free software product in their security chain called Safe, which is a storage software tool. And the Safe storage tool apparently is widely used in the crypto industry, but was designed to be a tool for crypto hobbyists, but people used it because I guess it was free. Ugh. So, they were able to compromise this tool. ByBit had advanced warnings already about problems with Safe, and they said they had noticed 3 or 4 months prior to the hack that the software was not fully compatible with their security services. This CEO was reading this stuff, and I'm like, wow, dude, I guess you don't understand litigation, because talk about litigation, and you just admitted that you knew something. Like, who knew what, when? Oh, I did. I knew all about it, and we just didn't do anything. The attackers broke into ByBit's Safe system by compromising a computer that belonged to a Safe developer, which allowed them to put malicious implants in the code, and then that allowed them to manipulate these transactions. So basically what happened was a link was generated by this malicious code that went to Ben Joe, who's the CEO of ByBit and the guy that's been admitting to all this, and basically ask Ben Joe to authorize a transfer of funds. So they do this all the time. They move funds from cold wallets to hot wallets. Well, Ben Joe said, "Oh, okay," and approved it. And poof, $1.5 billion went into some other hot wallet that they don't control, and it was gone in a second. And, there you go. I wish I was more evil. So the moral is, know your flows, put controls in place to limit the ability of single sign-offs on large or even small sums, to be honest. I mean, this guy shouldn't have been. I mean, I know he's a CEO, but I mean, come on. One person shouldn't be able to click OK and $1.5 billion is transferred. I mean, really? I mean, we were writing people up for this stuff ages ago. And you probably should begin evaluation of what other software you have in your operations, because maybe ByBit's not going to get sued because of where they're located, but you might. So be aware. Well, speaking of crypto, my favorite crypto guy, Captain Crypto himself, got the spandex, the cape, the hairdo, superpowers, can leap speeding blockchains faster than a speeding sideload can occur. It's Aaran Leyland. Hi, Aaron.
Hey, Dr. Doug. We can't talk about crypto anymore because for the last few years, I'm not allowed to hold it. So lucky I got out just before 2022 when it all crashed. But it's all over the place these days, isn't it? What about Trump and his Melinda's meme coins? I know a lot of people asked me for advice on that, and I was like, just don't buy it. And then they did, and then it dropped.
Yeah, but right after they sold all theirs, I'm sure. I mean, it's like they're just playing games with the market and making tons of money, I think. I wish they
Yeah,
just let me in on it. If they just call me, I'd be fine with it. Just call me up and go, guess what we're going to do? Today we're going to announce that we're going to ban oranges, and then, the price of oranges drops. And if you sell it all short, you make a fortune.
yeah, it's all about the pump and dump and the
Well, yeah, that was a pump and dump for sure. And they're already releasing stories that, they sold all theirs before the announcements and all
yeah.
this other stuff. So,
And
yeah.
and there's these Telegram channels where they're all like setting up the pumps and dumps and stuff like that. It's
Yep.
crazy. And it's like XRP's been about the same price for about 1,000,000 years. Apparently it's going to $1 trillion. Never.
Uh-huh.
But
And then it
anyway,
won't.
no.
It'll go there for about an hour, and then all of a sudden it'll all go away. It's a classic pump and dump. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
you got to learn to get your sell orders in and all that good stuff. Like it's not a okay. Anyway, what seems to be my favorite subject, China. I won't try and say it how Trump says it.
China.
But the article today is from Bleeping Computer, and to be honest, I fell into a hole about this because it's China and ended up reading about 5 or 6 other articles. I've thrown 4 or 5 of them into the show notes, so get there. So we hear about the typhoons. This time it's Silk Typhoon, also known as Hafnium, and I think APT-27. I'll get to that right at the end, why I give you 3 of them, because there's a good reason for that. But anyway, as I said, states. So the article says Chinese state-sponsored cyber espionage group, active since at least 2021, and then primarily targeting organizations in the United States and allied countries. Is there any more allied countries? But we won't get into that, including government agencies, defense contractors, law firms, universities, NGOs, all the good ones. Not the NHS this time. So Silk Typhoon's operations focus on or did intelligence collection and data theft, often via exploitation of internet-facing systems and stolen credentials. So the group became infamous in early 2021 for the Microsoft Exchange proxy logon, 0-day, that's in inverted commas, hacks that compromised tens of thousands of email servers worldwide. It's like, they're just inside. Everybody's inside. They're fighting over each other and knocking each other out. It's crazy. So more recently, and this is the important bit, Silk Typhoon, I don't even know what Silk Typhoon is, has evolved its tactics to infiltrate the IT supply chain. Look, SolarWinds. Look, it's happening. Targeting managed service providers, remote management tools, and the biggie, cloud services, as a route to breach downstream customers, of course. So Silk Typhoon is notorious for rapidly weaponizing 0-day vulnerabilities or end-day in widely used enterprise technologies to gain initial access. So look, literally it comes out, they weaponize it, done. So if it's like a 9 point something or a critical or that, do you really think you've got 30 days to patch that? You definitely don't. Okay, so we love a CVE here. CVE 2025-0282. More context because it makes more sense. Avante Connect Secure VPN. So that was a stack-based buffer overflow. And if you ever do any cyber courses, buffer overflow is where it all began. And Doug loves to talk about it because he knows so much more about it than me. So then we have CVE 2024-3400, which was a Palo Alto Network Global Protect sort of function. And that enables the unauthenticated attacker to create arbitrary files and execute code with root privileges. Look, that's just the worst it can get. That is the real bad stuff. And also they were famous for CVE 2023-35-119. And that was a Citrix NetScaler ADC gateway. And that was unauthenticated remote code. Look, remote code execution, we're all done. Okay. So, as I said, there's now been a shift from malware to legitimate tools and services. So, one of the most striking developments in ST's tactics is a shift away from custom malware and web shells towards abusing legitimate credential software and cloud services. So Microsoft's been all over this, and from their threat intelligence, and they're saying that they no longer rely heavily on their own malware implants. Instead, they only gain access. The hackers use stolen keys, passwords, and legitimate administrative tools to blend into the environment. Just Google living off the land techniques. We all love that. So, for example, the US Treasury breach, December 2024, just a little while ago, the Typhoon, operators did not deploy a new Trojan. What they did is they stole an API key for legitimate remote support platform beyond trust. And then they were able to access the network and exfiltrate data. So their focus on IT service providers and supply chain targets, it's just a total force multiplier, because once you're in there, well, you're in lots of things, aren't you? So rather than attacking high value organizations directly, the group comprises of an upstream provider that has trusted connections into multiple customers. SolarWinds in it. So Microsoft reports that Silk Typhoon is now targeting remote management tools and crowd applications and supply chain attacks to gain the initial foothold. And then by compromising a single MSP or enterprise software vendor, obviously, they can potentially gain access to many, many, many downstream victims, exponentially expanding their espionage. Look, seriously, we all need to get on top of this third-party risk management, maybe looking at platforms like Risk Ledger. As I always want to give you some defense against these attacks, I'm just looking what time we've got. I'm going to cut it a bit short. But defending against APTs, look, prompt patch management, identity and access controls, MFA. But look, you need to monitor for anomalous activity. You need to do compromise assessments. You need to think that you've always been breached. And us being cyber professionals, and if you listen to this, so of course you've segmented your network, haven't you? And of course, a way a lot of these get in is phishing. Microsoft's pretty good at that. Actually, Microsoft's too good at that sometimes these days, because they just like filter everything. But anyway, as I said, a little bit of geopolitical analysis. I'm going to skim over this, but as we know, China's cybersecurity strategy has long prioritized espionage. It's all about stealing the intellectual property, diplomatic communications. They really are on this. Look, governments have been trying to sort this out, but there's a total erosion of digital trust. It's like there's so much national security, probably why government's looking more towards China and kind of forgetting about Russia. But is that a good idea? Is China and Russia not just going to align with each other in the big war anyway? So, okay. The US government has accelerated efforts. Look, they are looking at zero trust architectures. Thankfully, some mandatory MFA, some logging requirements and continuous monitoring. Look, it's all stuff we're all doing anyway, of course. Okay, I will tell you again and again, we need to protect ourselves against our biggest adversary, the Chinese government, and we should not be hiding behind all them fun names like Salt Typhoon or the other ones I just made up. Look, this only goes to dilute the seriousness of the campaign from the Chinese government. I told you. Back to Dr. Doug on the island.
Thank you, Aaron. All scary stuff as ever. Yeah. Strange times. All right. Thanks, Aaron. I think everybody watches YouTube videos. I mean, even I find myself doing it occasionally, but it kind of turns after a while into a sort of net nanny reflection of your incredibly twisted personality, right? I mean, yeah, I'm talking to you, Brad. I saw your feed. Yeah, well, YouTube knows best, right? And it guides you with its ever-loving, ever-knowing algorithm that decides what might interest you. So it throws up all this stuff. And I'm sure it has some mechanism to throw up some random things from time. And I'm not sure why mine keeps getting filled with makeup videos and food challenges, but whatever. They should combine those two things. Like, you got to put on makeup while you do the food challenge. You know, like, can you do full juggalo makeup while you're eating like a 7 pounds of French fries or whatever? Well, YouTube's been around for about 20 years, and it's the #1 streaming service in the world, according to this article. Now, you think about this. In 2024, 823 million tickets to movie theaters were sold in the US and Canada. But Mr. Beast, one of the biggest YouTubers in the world, got 762 million views in just one video. I've never actually seen a Mr. Beast video, so I don't actually know what they do. Hopefully it's not something really awful, but I've heard the name. I just don't follow that kind of stuff. But it's estimated that there are around 14.8 billion, with a B, videos on YouTube, and most of them have never been seen. The algorithm hands you things, and it tends to focus on things that are more successful. So unless you just search for really weird random things and the person actually named the video some weird random thing that matches the weird random thing you just typed, you'll probably never see those. So you kind of end up at the pointy end of the curve watching people try to see how many billiard balls they can put in their mouths or whatever. Now, according to this article, the median video on YouTube has been watched 41 times. No, 41. And posts that have more than 130 views are in the top third of the most popular content, which tells you something about this whole thing. Now, the article then includes a link to this player that finds random videos from 2009 to 2012 when iPhones had the ability to post videos straight to YouTube. So you could just literally hit like two buttons and your iPhone would record whatever you were recording straight onto YouTube. And it did, I don't think it named it very well or anything like that. So I went to this viewer, after I checked it out to make sure it wasn't like malware or something. And I still went to it in a sandbox because I didn't want to check it out that much. But I went to it in a sandbox. I saw a baby, and I think the people were speaking Korean, had 30 views. A kid running with somebody's phone through the house, 4 views from April of 2013. It's bizarre, but it's kind of that like fail blog addictive bizarre. Like you just sort of keep watching it to see what's going to come up next. I mean, I really need to get back to work, but okay, just one more. 19 views, March 2011. Someone's weird interpretive dance recital. Yeah, it's just like, what? It's a little bit addictive. Anyway, that's the news. Thank you, Aaron, and I will see you next time on the Security Weekly News.